All right, next up we got Smoke Rings with a W. This is yet another one. It's just not very Tales from the Crypt. It feels more like a cheap man's Black Mirror episode, something like that. Like it's technology horror. I liked this episode. I mean, I think it's one of those ones you just kind of have to take for how it is. But I think with the explanation at the end, it explains it all away. But this one stars at Daniel Craig way before his Bond days, and he goes in to work at this ad agency. He comes in there and he's fast, smooth talker, and he gets the job from this chick. And we find out that he's actually working for this disgruntled employee that lives in the basement of this building. Yet again, as I said, like, you don't really have to break down the logic of this episode because we find at the end that they were just manipulating his mind with this device in order to get the results they wanted. Like they could tell him anything. He was overly suggestible. Like you could tell him anything you wanted. Like, and I'm living in the basement, and I'm this, and now you're selling chocolate through a microchip, whatever. And he's just like, okay. So he sees whatever they're telling him. So it's kind of like, as I said, you're just sitting there the whole time like, okay, that's a little much. This is a little ridiculous. And then you find out and you're like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense that that was all that much. Overall, as I said, I really like the performance by Daniel Craig a lot. And I think that's probably what carried this episode for me. And yeah, I mean, I like the idea of that little thing in the episode before we find out that it's not real, but kind of is at the end because they are using that on him. But he's using, it's an ad agency who wants to manipulate consumers into buying or doing whatever they want. It's kind of like a spin on what They Live is parodying. People's desires to consume and how the media and how advertising agencies and how many different kinds of affiliates can manipulate your mind into buying their product and buying into their nonsense and their bullshit. So this is a device that they used him as a guinea pig to see how effective it was, and they got him to fall for everything and then ultimately dispatch himself when the time was needed. And then they got to just they called it their, presentation. Like that was a good presentation. So he was just part of a presentation in a board meeting, and then they had him kill himself at the end of it. That's fucked up. So I liked thinking about certain things in this. Overall, the episode was fine, but Daniel Craig's performance in this elevated it enough for me to enjoy it. So yeah, all right, moving on.